the first difference is that there is not always a dedicated sales team. Some AEC firms may have a sales team. Most often they're called business development teams, but very often sales are driven through the actual practitioners. So just like a lawyer might drive a sale in a law firm, a seller-doer or a winner-doer, depending on the firm, whichever they call them, those are people that do work. So they might be an engineer, an architect, but they also sell at the same time. And so they are the ones that are responsible to put a proposal together or to respond to a bid or a tender as part of that. They have that sales responsibility. It's an interesting conflict because their primary KPI is their billable hours, right? They want to be billed out as an architect. That's how they're going to win money. But they know that they got to sacrifice some of that billable time to do sales work. So for a seller-doer, as much as we can reduce the amount of time that they're not working on billable activities, the better it will be for them. They want to reduce admin, non-billable work so they can maximize their billable work. And that's where QorusDocs plays a significant role. The other important thing about AEC is that not every single project is an RFP or some kind of big proposal. Very often, you might be asked at a large AEC firm to give a quote or a price on a $50,000 piece of work. It's like, hey, we need a new design on our corporate bathroom in the CEO's office or something crazy like that. And to re-architect a design, that's $50K. So that does not require a bid, a long-standing RFP. All it really requires is a fee letter or a basic outline of the kind of the proposal that we're choosing to do. Now that may escalate because the next piece from there might be, hey, we actually need a proposal for you guys to renovate the second floor of this building, and we want you to handle this scope of work. And that might be a proactive proposal still, but there's several people working on that to say, okay, we need an architect, we need an engineer, we need a project manager, we're going to need plumbing, electrical, all of these things. So who's going to work? Let's get all of their CVs together on this. Where have we renovated the first floor before? Okay, we've done it in this building and that building and that building. And let's put some pictures in that show what that output of that renovation, the before and after look like. Then they've got to deal with things like risk as well. Like, okay, well, what happens if there's an electrical failure and how do we manage that and deal with the certifications that are required when you're renovating a building. So that's the second level of type of document that they might produce. The third level would be a bid or a tender, and that's when City of London says we want to build the Elizabeth line, right, which is a multi-billion-dollar exercise, and someone is going to tender on that. And that is a colossal undertaking where specialized business development teams will get involved to put that tender together and to respond to that. And that may take anything from 6 weeks to a year to build out that tender, depending on how much detail is requested. It will likely be multi-phased as well. It might be, we're going to go for, request for information to see if you're even a vendor that we want to work with. Then it might be, hey, put a proposal quote together or a proposal, some level of detail there. So the complexity of these documents, stretches and spans as it does in other areas. QorusDocs is excellent across that full gambit, whether it's from putting the basic fee letter together all the way through to putting a multi-billion-dollar Elizabeth line proposal together that gets presented back out. The first thing we do is help them to organize their content. That's the starting point. For agents to be effective, for any tool to be effective, that content needs to be in the right place. So it's getting your CVs in one place, getting your experience in one place, getting all your risk documents in another place, making sure we've got all of these documents in the right areas. Then on top of that, attaching either a template for like a fee letter or a process for a mega pitch or mega tender rather that they're looking to do, and making sure that that works and functions well. And then because these people do not want to spend time learning new systems, learning where the content is, we need to make it simple and easy for them to work with that, which means putting the capability into Office, allowing them to manage the content in SharePoint, bringing all of that together into one single package. So many of them, they want to build out a very compelling proposal, and they need pictures of how they're going to frame the space, what the before looks like, what the after looks like, what building did we do this in before. It's almost brochure-like outputs that come out of these teams. That's where InDesign plays a key role, because you could achieve that maybe with PowerPoint, but it's more complex. So they use InDesign to be able to do that. And maybe let's just dwell on the InDesign piece a little bit. So this is how we understand these firms work. Let's take a mid-range proposal. What they do is they go through a typical process. They'll meet together. They'll understand how we're going to win this. Okay, they'll start gathering information, and they'll do that in a very raw format. So they might pull all the CVs into a PowerPoint deck, go pull all of the experience records into a Word document, do the pricing in Excel, answer some questions in Word. They put all of that together into this collation of documents. They collaborate around those documents in Microsoft Office. And as they leave that process, they hand over to a design team. The design team then takes those pieces and they build it into something that's really compelling and very, very beautiful. And it's a two-step process through that. So what we're focused on from an InDesign perspective is helping them kind of move from the one format to the other format and to do quality review on that final format there. Again, every firm works a little bit differently. So there are some firms where the users are just so proficient on InDesign that they don't have a design team, and the actual kind of proposal team just works directly in InDesign and they choose not to. We've come across those firms for sure. But end to end, that's the process. There's a whole like work in progress thing that happens, and then there's the finalization and the formatting. A couple of interesting areas for AEC. So firstly, like the whole CV thing is a real challenge. And very often AEC firms, unlike law firms that might have systems specifically for CVs and bios, AEC firms seldom have that. So their bios are sitting in SharePoint. Their project sheets are sitting in SharePoint. And populating those key pieces of information is very, very difficult to get the Seller-Doer to give up his billable hours to go and update his CV in a SharePoint library. So to help with that, firstly, we're using tools like our web researcher agent to be able to go and pull information off their LinkedIn profile or any other kind of public information that they might have. We're deploying voice agents to be able to run interviews with them so that they can find out what's changed in your CV, what project have you done recently, have you increased your education, what would you like to say something different? Same with the project sheet. Tell us a bit about this project that ran. What was the size of the project? What was the location? What was the problem that the client had? How did we solve that? We're using voice agents to be able to do that. And then moving beyond that, it's the same kind of problems. Whether you're putting a pitch together, you need the agents to be able to accelerate finding the right pieces and collating that. Whether you're putting an RFP together, finding the right answers to questions, pulling that together and answering those areas. A growing number of AEC firms have gone through a digital transformation and are now looking at tools to accelerate their business development process. So the leaders of those teams, they're targeted with increased billings, and sometimes those asks are huge. Like for a multi-billion-dollar firm, they're being asked to grow like 20+% annually. That's a big ask. So what they're looking for is how can I bid on more stuff? And then how can I bid better or propose better? And those are two problems that QorusDocs solves. Because how can I bid or propose on more? Well, let me make it easier and quicker to be able to do that proposal. Then I can just drop proposals out, into a lot more opportunities that I interact with. On the flip side of that is, we want to make sure that we do win the big Elizabeth line process there. So I need the best proposal. And the best proposal is going to have the best CVs and bios in it, the best experience in it, and the best price as well. And so how do I get all of that together in record time? Don't miss deadlines, get a high quality outcome, answer all the questions, and win that deal. What I want to also say to everyone on watching these things is, it is incredibly nuanced, right? And we're still learning. Like, we've been doing law firms for a long time now, but we go into a law firm and we learn about a different way that they work. We go into an AEC firm and we learn about a different way that they work. So my appeal is, if you come across a use case, a scenario, or something different to the way we've been trained, be incredibly curious, ask a ton of questions, try your best to understand how that firm or that AEC company works, bring it back to the internal teams, talk to your sales leader, JK, Mitch, let's get that knowledge shared. Let's not answer definitively on anything there, but learn, be curious, absorb as much of that as we can so that we can get better of this, understand this in more detail, and understand the nuances that might come up as well.